Well, a certain morning show host tried to hint that the Eagles have serious internal issues yesterday, which sounded like a great story, until Adam Schefter officially set the record straight, but it was Schefty's later comments on the Eagles' big free agent target that really had me fired up. Plus, the Eagles signed not one, but two new players yesterday. Do they have a chance to make the roster? I'm Thomas Mott. This is The Thomas Mott Show. Okay, before we get to the Craig Carton, Eagles are a mess nonsense yesterday, we must talk about the fact the Eagles signed not just one player yesterday, and 49ers running back Ty Davis-Price, who, of course, if you didn't see my show yesterday, is a very physical, 6 foot, 215-pound plus San Francisco running back that they took the third round just 2 years ago, but really never used. Basically, the gist on him is that the Eagles gave him a massive future reserve contract that basically guarantees they think he can turn into something, whether that's RB1, 2, 3, or 4. We really don't know yet, but they're very high on this guy, and he's a chance to make the roster as a running back. Now, the other player they signed was former Chiefs 5th-round pick in 2022, Darian Kinnard, who was Kentucky's starting right tackle back in his college days, but made the Chiefs roster as a rookie, didn't really play, and then was a practice squad guy basically the entire 2023 season. Now, I know that Howie loves him some developmental offensive lineman to pair with Jeff Stoutland, so that means that I love this move as well. And speaking of love, my fiance does not love my absolutely incredible mustache here, but she said if I can get to 43,000 subs by the end of today, I can keep it for a little while longer, so come on, help me out a little bit here. The stash looks great, hit the sub button, let's keep it for a couple more days. Okay, the big news though yesterday, you've all probably seen this. If you haven't, it's going to be a wild one. Sit tight for this one. How about FS1's morning show host Craig Carton hinting that the Birds have major internal issues yesterday when he went live on a show and said this, quote, he knows the real reason for the Eagles' collapse last season. It's a problem that would splinter any group of men. Any group of men! It's a real significant problem, and it cannot be fixed. I will tell you that. It'll be very interesting to see if a high-profile player will be with them next season. Oh man, that sounds really serious, Craig. Can you give us any more information on exactly who or what or why? Like, anything? Anything at all? No? All right, I'll just take your word for it. Now, let's be real here. This is clearly hinting at A.J. Brown being a massive issue, which is pretty funny because didn't we do this whole A.J. Brown is a bad teammate like 3 months ago, 2 months ago, last month, couple of weeks ago, and then everyone and their mother on the Eagles roster denied it 1 billion times. Like, okay, if it's not A.J. Brown, then what could Craig Carton possibly be hinting at here? Maybe the coaching staff is an absolute mess and players hate Nick Sirianni, or maybe there's some ownership issues, or maybe some players don't like each other. I don't know what he's talking about here, but it fired a lot of people up on Twitter until just about, an hour ago as of filming this show early on a Wednesday morning where John Kincaid on 97.5 The Fanatic had Adam Schefter on his show and said, hey, Adam, did you hear this? Give us your thoughts on exactly what Craig means.
But by the way, I don't even know if the National Enquirer would write something like that.
We agreed at the beginning of today's show that it was a capital B bullcrap, but that's where we were.
And by the way, I texted somebody in the organization yesterday. I'm like, what is this? And the text back, the quote was, none of that S word happened. None of that S happened.
Good.
Now, I don't know. I'm just telling you that, and that's what qualifies, as a reporter. You can just go say whatever you want, and it gets clicks, and people hear about it. Was somebody with another player's woman, or who knows? Who knows? I'm just telling you, somebody in the organization, was pretty adamant yesterday. None of that happened. Look, I think people are looking for a reason that their season went south. And I just think that they got blown out at home by the Niners. The season from there unraveled. They never were able to get it together. It was injuries. It was chemistry. It was confidence. It was momentum. It was all those things. Was somebody sleeping with somebody else's woman? Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, so it's not really that bad, at least according to Adam Schefter. Now, it's a he said, she said, but I'll be honest, if you're asking me to pick between Craig Carton and Adam Schefter, I'll put all of my eggs right into the Schefter basket 100% of the time. And of course, that's not just because Carton was, wait for it, what is this, convicted of fraud on November 7, 2018 in a Manhattan federal court after a week-long trial and sentenced to 3.5 years in prison in order to make restitution on $4.8 million? No, it's not because of that. Don't be silly. I mean, maybe it's because his morning show on FS1 is borderline unwatchable, in my humble opinion, and apparently everyone else, though, kind of agrees. What's this? His key demo on November 8th of this past year, which is peak football season, by the way, only had 67,000 people watching his show? I know of a tiny little YouTube channel with some guy who has a really great mustache and sounds just like Ben Shapiro. Didn't he have 150,000 views on one 10-minute video just 2 days prior? I'm just messing with you. Like, obviously, I'm not implying any of this. It's not like he has a history of lying or has a very highly budgeted FS1 show, which probably pays him millions of dollars to get almost as many views as a really small YouTube channel show. And so he's probably trying to scramble to find some views and maybe just making up a couple of reports that could get Eagles fans, a major demographic, fired up on Twitter, maybe tuning into his show today. Maybe that could be what's happening, but I doubt it. I'm not alleging that at all. All I'm saying is when something smells like fish, it's probably fish and not steak. And also, why are we still surprised when big-time media names or networks make up lies for clicks and we all go, whoa, I can't believe you lied to me. And in reality, it's like, wait, you do that sort of stuff all the time. Either way, it's probably safe to say that right now this is probably a giant nothing burger. The odds that the Eagles have some sort of major internal problem and they aren't going to address it is really, really hard to believe. Now, if A.J. Brown is really this toxic, they'll just trade him. Like, if he truly is as bad as Craig Carton promises that he is, they'll just get rid of him, they'll move on, and they'll work with Devontae Smith, and they'll draft somebody. But do we really think A.J. Brown is that toxic? I don't. Let me know what you guys think down below right now. Okay, with that nonsense behind us, Adam Schefter also had a really interesting hint that he just kind of sprinkled into his interview on 97.5 The Fanatic this morning, talking about Philadelphia's biggest target this offseason, and yeah, it's exactly what we all want.
But I can tell you that I would be surprised if somehow they didn't look to upgrade their secondary. I mean, that just stands out to me, and I think it stands out to everybody. And by the way, they are far from alone in the league. There are any number of teams that need to find upgrades at certain spots in the secondary. So they're not alone in that. Now the question is, okay, well, who can they go get when everybody needs that spot? And I don't have those names yet. I leave Indianapolis with a better idea of names and some of the people that are out there than I do now.
Now, of course, Shefty wouldn't give us a name, but his ESPN colleague Matt Bowen, he basically did. He wrote that Philly is the best fit for Chiefs star cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, saying, quote, with his scheme, versatile coverage skills, Sneed will generate a ton of interest on the free agent market. Look for Atlanta and Las Vegas to make a play here, too. I have Sneed landing in Philadelphia to upgrade the position opposite Darius Slay, with Vic Fangio now calling the defense for the Birds. Philly allowed 16 passing touchdowns in the second half of last season, tied for the fourth most in the NFL. The Eagles have to clean up the secondary, and Sneed can make an impact. He had at least 2 interceptions in each of his 4 career seasons with the Chiefs. Now, that sounds great, but let's be very clear first. Sneed was very open about wanting to return to KC on one condition, which he told Kay Adams on our show a couple of weeks ago.
What would you like to say as we wrap the show up here to Brett Veach? And I have a lot of love for your GM and what he's done building this dynasty. What would you like to say?
Man, pay me. Pay me. Pay me. That's what I got to say. Pay me.
Okay. I mean, I don't even know. I think that we have to wrap it there. Pay the man.
But with Sneed likely commanding, $15 to $17 million a year, and the Chiefs having, according to my calculations, about $20+ million in cap space at the moment, obviously it can change, re-signing Sneed is not going to be easy for the Super Bowl champs. And with James Bradbury coming off his worst season as a pro, and Darius Slay posting more and more on social media despite getting older and older, what's he doing there? Philadelphia does make a ton of sense for the star cornerback from KC, especially since you paired the fact that Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio was seemingly a major part of the Dolphins defense last year that traded in the offseason for another star cornerback in Jalen Ramsey. Now, let's be real. Sneed to Philadelphia, it makes a ton of sense. But there are also other cornerbacks in the free agent market who would be cheaper, who could be an option. Plus, the whole idea, and I've seen this on Twitter a couple of times, that Bradbury's been great minus last year. Plus, he's on a contract that you can't really get rid of, means they're going to have to keep him. So maybe they don't make this move. Maybe they do. Who knows? It's all speculation at this point in the offseason. But if Philadelphia was going to try and bolster one key position, have one real lockdown, shutdown player on that defensive secondary, it's the cornerback spot that needs to be addressed. Sneed plus an older veteran player and Slay together, mix in whoever wants to play nickel cornerback, maybe Isaiah Rodgers, and you get a safety in maybe free agency at cheap or NFL draft, and that secondary could look a whole lot better than what it was in the 2023 season, where no one could get a stop, no one could play coverage, and no one was anywhere close to being decent, and I think that was a big reason why Philadelphia was so bad, especially on defense last year. Now, one thing to note is that the NFL Combine is next week, which is interesting because the Eagles will have plenty of reports about who they talk to and who they want to draft, and this player and that player, but as Diana Rossini, she mentioned that as players and coaches descend on Indianapolis, there's going to be GMs and NFL owners, and there is going to be a ton of news to break down, and I'm sure Philadelphia will have some sort of rumblings, and of course, we'll cover it all here on the Thomas Mott Show. This is your best one-stop shop. There are a lot of other places you can get your news, whether it's Twitter, whether it's, newspapers or radio stations or other YouTube channels. This is the place to be. Hit that sub button. We got you guys covered all off season long. What a crazy day. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been The Thomas Mott Show.